911. What's your emergency?
Help somebody, please help me.
The 911 call came through at 3:17 p.m. on September 15th, 2023. What started as a routine afternoon show at Seab's Marine World had turned into a nightmare that would shake the marine entertainment industry to its core. Jessica Radcliffe, a 29-year-old trainer who dedicated 8 years to working with orcas, was fighting for her life in a tank with Titan, a 12,000-pound killer whale with a documented history of aggression that the park had hidden from everyone, including Jessica herself. The security footage tells a story of systematic failure. But what makes this tragedy even more horrifying is that Jessica had actually tried to quit 3 weeks earlier. She'd submitted her resignation, citing safety concerns about Titan's increasingly erratic behavior. Management had convinced her to stay, promising additional safety measures that never materialized. They'd offered her a raise, better hours, and assured her that her concerns were unfounded. "You're the only one Titan trusts," they told her. That trust was about to become her death sentence. Jessica's path to Seabs had been anything but ordinary. Growing up in coastal Maine, she'd spent her childhood volunteering at marine rescue centers, rehabilitating seals, and studying whale migration patterns. Her college thesis on orca communication had been published in 3 peer-reviewed journals. She wasn't just another trainer looking for an exciting job. She was a serious marine biologist who believed she could contribute to orca research while working at the park. Jessica thought she could change things from the inside. Her former professor, Dr. Amanda Chun, later testified. She wanted to improve conditions for the animals, to make captivity more humane. She genuinely believed she was helping. But Seab's Marine World wasn't interested in research or animal welfare. Internal documents would later reveal that they'd hired Jessica specifically because her credentials would look good in marketing materials. They'd featured her in promotional videos, touting her scientific background to deflect criticism about keeping orcas in captivity. What they didn't advertise was that they'd ignored every single recommendation she'd made about improving tank conditions, increasing enrichment activities, and reducing show frequencies. Titan's story was even darker. Captured off the coast of Norway in 1998 as a calf, he'd been sold to a Russian facility where he'd spent 5 years performing in a tank so small he couldn't fully turn around without touching the walls. When that facility closed, he'd been shipped to Japan, where his first trainer incident occurred in 2015, then another in 2017. By the time Seabs acquired him in March 2023, Titan had been involved in 4 documented attacks on humans. Seabs knew about all of them. They'd simply calculated that the risk was worth the reward. The first warning sign came on August 23, 2023. During a routine training session, Titan had grabbed Jessica's ankle and held her underwater for 45 seconds. When she'd finally surfaced, gasping and trembling, she'd immediately filed an incident report. That report, obtained through legal discovery, was damning. Jessica wrote, "Titan exhibited predatory behavior today. This was not play. He was testing boundaries and assessing my vulnerability. I recommend suspending all water work immediately." The report was reviewed by management and filed away. No action was taken. 2 weeks later, on September 7th, Titan had knocked Jessica off his back during a show, sending her crashing into the concrete edge of the pool. She'd suffered a severe concussion and required 17 stitches. The park's official incident report called it a minor mishap during performance. But Jessica's personal journal, discovered after her death, told a different story. "He's hunting me," she'd written. "I can see it in his eyes. He watches me like I'm prey. I'm scared to go in the water, but they won't listen. They say I'm being dramatic." The morning of September 15th began with another warning. Veterinary staff had noticed that Titan had been swimming in figure-8 patterns all night, a behavior associated with extreme psychological distress in captive orcas. He'd also been vocalizing at frequencies that indicated agitation. Dr. Jennifer Walsh, the staff veterinarian, had sent an urgent email at 6:47 a.m. "Titan is displaying pre-incident behavior. Cancel all shows immediately." That email was read by 3 executives. They decided to proceed with the day's schedule because they'd already sold out the afternoon show, their most profitable time slot. At 2:30 p.m., Jessica began her final prep routine. Security cameras show her in the backstage area, checking her equipment, her hands visibly shaking as she put on her wetsuit. She made a phone call to her mother that lasted 3 minutes. Her mother later said Jessica had told her she loved her and that she was thinking about coming home to visit soon. She'd sounded scared. The show started at 3 p.m. with nearly 5,000 guests packed into the stadium. It was a special event, marketed as the ultimate Orca experience, with premium pricing and guaranteed close-up interactions. Jessica entered the stage to thunderous applause, her professional smile masking the fear that colleagues could see in her eyes. She began her routine presentation about Orca intelligence and social bonds, but her voice wavered when she looked at Titan. For the first 10 minutes, everything seemed normal. Titan performed his basic behaviors, responded to signals, and appeared cooperative. But marine mammal experts who later analyzed the footage identified multiple warning signs. His swimming pattern was too rigid, his breathing too rapid, his eye movement tracking Jessica with predatory focus rather than trained attention. At 3:12 p.m., Jessica entered the water for what was supposed to be a 5-minute synchronized swimming routine. The attack began at 3:14 p.m. Titan approached Jessica for what should have been a dorsal toe, but instead of allowing her to grab his fin, he suddenly turned and clamped his jaws around her right leg. The force was so powerful that witnesses heard the bones break from the upper bleachers. Jessica's scream was captured by the sound system and broadcast through the entire stadium. Parents rushed to cover their children's eyes as the clear water turned crimson. But Titan wasn't finished. He dragged Jessica to the bottom of the 30-foot pool, held her there for 90 seconds, then brought her to the surface just long enough for her to gasp for air before pulling her down again. This wasn't random aggression. It was methodical, calculated torture. Marine biologists would later identify this behavior as playing with prey, something orcas do with seals in the wild, keeping them alive as long as possible. Emergency responders deployed every available protocol. They activated acoustic deterrents, lowered barriers, began draining the pool. Nothing worked. Titan had entered what experts call a possession state, completely fixated on his prey. For 4 minutes and 37 seconds, he alternated between holding Jessica underwater and bringing her to the surface. Witnesses reported that she was conscious for most of it, her arms flailing, trying desperately to reach the pool's edge that remained just out of reach. If you're someone who believes families deserve to know the truth about what really happens at these marine parks before they buy tickets, then you need to hit that subscribe button right now. What I'm about to reveal next has been covered up by corporate lawyers for over a year. And the only way these stories get told is if people like you help spread them. Subscribe because the details I'm sharing next will change how you think about marine entertainment forever. When Titan finally released her, Jessica floated face down in the blood-darkened water. The dive team pulled her out while Titan circled below, still in hunting mode. Paramedics worked for 20 minutes trying to resuscitate her, but the damage was too severe. She was pronounced dead at 3:42 p.m. The official cause of death was drowning and massive trauma. Her right leg had been severed below the knee, her ribcage crushed, her left lung punctured. She'd suffered in ways that the clinical language of an autopsy report could never fully capture. SEB's response was immediate and calculated. Within an hour, they'd confiscated all phones from staff members, locked down the facility, and begun crafting their narrative. Their first press release, issued at 5 p.m., called it an unprecedented incident and suggested that Jessica had deviated from safety protocols. They actually blamed her for her own death while her body was still warm. But the truth couldn't be contained. The FBI launched a criminal investigation that would eventually result in charges against 5 executives for negligent homicide. The investigation revealed that SEBs had been operating with expired safety permits, falsifying incident reports, and bribing inspectors to overlook violations. They'd calculated that lawsuit payouts would be cheaper than implementing real safety measures. Titan was euthanized 6 weeks after the attack. The necropsy revealed extensive brain damage from years of captivity, his neural tissue showing signs of chronic stress and trauma. In the end, Titan was as much a victim as Jessica, both destroyed by an industry that profits from suffering. Jessica's story forces us to confront uncomfortable truths about entertainment built on exploitation. But this isn't just about fear or blame. It's about understanding. Tell your children, tell everyone who will listen, not just about the danger, but about the illusion we've created. about the difference between genuine connection and forced performance, about what happens when we convince ourselves that love can overcome millions of years of evolution, that kindness can heal psychological torture, that our need for entertainment justifies breaking magnificent lines. Because Jessica Radcliffe wasn't foolish. She was brilliant, compassionate, dedicated. She genuinely believed science and care could make captivity humane. The world never taught her that no amount of love can undo what captivity does to an apex predator's mind. Her compassion couldn't heal neural pathways destroyed by decades of confinement. Her expertise couldn't predict behavior in an animal driven insane by imprisonment. So share Jessica's story not for shock value, but for education. Because somewhere right now, another young person is watching an orca show, falling in love with these magnificent creatures, dreaming of swimming alongside them. They need to know that real love for orcas means fighting for their freedom, not their captivity. It means supporting wild populations, not concrete prisons. It means respecting them enough to observe from a distance, not demanding they entertain us. If you know someone who loves marine life, tell them Jessica's story, not to frighten them, but to redirect their passion toward conservation, research, protection of wild populations. Explain that orcas in the wild have never killed a human in recorded history. But in captivity, they've killed 4 trainers. That difference tells us everything. Love is not possession. Connection is not control. And entertainment should never come at the cost of driving intelligent beings insane. Jessica learned this too late, but her death can teach others. Every ticket bought, every show attended, every applause given enables this system. The way to honor Jessica isn't to fear these animals. It's to respect them enough to leave them where they belong, in oceans where they can swim 100 miles a day, where they can stay with their families for life, where they can be what they are, not what we forced them to become. Remember Jessica Radcliffe. Remember that she died believing she was helping. Remember that good intentions aren't enough when the system itself is built on suffering. And next time someone suggests visiting a marine park, remember that behind every splash and trick is an animal whose mind has been shattered by captivity and a trainer who might be next. Jessica's family wants you to know one thing above all. Wild animals belong in the wild, not because they're dangerous, but because they're magnificent. And magnificence dies in concrete tanks, one show at a time, taking trainers like Jessica with it. She deserved better. They all do.